Cricket in Ireland and Italy, more than a sport, a cultural melting pot.
Princes and lawyers played with the English elite.
To produce a radio piece about cricket in Ireland or Italy, it would have been perfectly possible to interview some senior executive from the respective federation that would have been able to give us a comprehensive overview of the history and current situation of the sport in the respective countries. Also, we could have included an expert view with the inclusion of some journalists that would have given us an outsider's view of the sport, but that would have defeated the purpose of the project, as more than likely we would have been reduced to the usual suspects, with very similar characteristics, i.e. middle-aged, white, male, and that would have given us the wrong impression of the world of cricket in either of the two countries. Cricket, by its nature, is a gentle, social sport that, as we learned during the production of the program, attracts people from a diversity of cultural backgrounds. So the fact that the head of the Italian Cricket Federation is an Italian born and bred individual does not preclude the fact that cricket in Italy arrived by the hand of the British expatriates, or that most of the players of the different clubs come from the Indian subcontinent. And as for those with an Italian passport, many are second-generation Italians born in far-away places like South Africa or Australia. The Irish case is in some instances not too dissimilar to the Italian one. Cricket also arrived in Ireland with the British, but this time was not with expatriates, but rather with the colonization, what gave the sport some negative connotation. It was necessary to let pass a period of hibernation in order to allow the sport to be reborn free of its colonial past with full Irish credentials, but also at a time when Ireland was for the first time in centuries a net receiver of immigrants thanks to the economic boom. This immigration brought a new crop of players to the clubs that suddenly had more players than they could handle. For those not familiar with cricket, we need to point out that a cricket match is played over several hours or even days, something that encourages social interaction. And if we add the fact that during the breaks, and especially in the aftermath of the matches, the social aspect of the sport, even between opponents, is not only expected but encouraged, we could say that the sport is only part of the whole cricket experience and becomes even more relevant when those involved come from totally different backgrounds. For that reason, we will put a special emphasis in the social aspect of the game. So, in both countries, the middle-aged white male approach would have given probably all the necessary information, but not an accurate image of the flavor. We approached two clubs, Genoa Football and Cricket Club and Civil Service Cricket Club, which gave us an idea of the real flavor of cricket in the respective countries at club level. We have to admit that despite our efforts, we did not do too well in breaking the male-dominated voice in the media, or even the average age, as our interviewees are still mainly male and mainly middle-aged. In terms of diversity, in relation to ethnic background, we did better. As a disclaimer for this relative failure to achieve more diversity, we have to point out the lack of diversity in the governing structures of the sport or in the media. Also, the relatively weak representation of female teams in comparison with the male counterparts. And now it's time to learn a little bit about cricket. Let's start with Ireland.
What it takes to be out in the middle, and you can pray to any deity you like.
Michael and Mary Sharp. Mary, of course, Honorary Secretary of Cricket Leinster. Michael, the Competitions Committee. Michael, Mary, thanks for coming in. Good to talk to you.
Cricket in Ireland started in the middle of the 1800s, mainly played in the garrison towns around the country. Then did die out largely early 1900s, but made a big revival then and is very strong at the moment. The Irish team certainly has helped, but having said that, it was popular before that, but it certainly has become hugely popular since they've become very successful.
2007, when we beat Pakistan in the World Cup, huge increase in popularity. We had a match against England last September with 10,000 people at it, which was unheard of for a cricket match in Ireland. Also, we've had a huge influx of people from India and Pakistan particularly filtered into Dublin clubs, and even there are some new clubs now that are almost entirely made up of people who've come into the country over the last number of years.
I mean, what has happened in lots of clubs after the 2007 win over Pakistan was that the volume of people couldn't be handled, because cricket requires a lot of ground and time, and sometimes the number of youngsters coming in that couldn't have enough teams to fill. So that was, in fact, unfortunate. But then what happened was the new clubs formed, which was great. So it's expanding all the time.
Yeah, I mean, there have always been some people from abroad who came to Ireland. Very often it was, people coming to study and they were here for a few years and then left again, or maybe people whose jobs took them to Ireland for a number of years. But in the last 5-10 years, those numbers have increased hugely. But there's no particular policy, it's just normal migration of people.
And those were Michael and Mary Sharp from the Leinster Cricket Federation, giving us an historical perspective, introduced by cricket expert Fergus Carroll. Now we will hear the voice of Ken McHugh of Sports Against Racism Ireland.
When we started up in 97, we wrote to all of the national governing bodies of sport. There's about 60 in the sports councils, and the response was immediate from the Irish Cricket Union and also from the Irish Amateur Boxing Association. And we also got support from Ultimate Frisbee. And they were the only three that supported us, also the only three that had equality and diversity clauses in their constitutions. So the cricket, that history of having anti-sectarian, anti-racism was always there in cricket right from the very beginning. If you look at some of the old photographs, for example, from the Leinster Cricket Club, going back to the early 1900s, you'll always see people from India who have been over here maybe studying in Trinity College, for example, the college surgeons. They always included players. There was never a colour bar here, like South Africa or some other countries. Clubs like Singhalese, for example, were on the wane, were suddenly revived by people knocking on the door, and suddenly the club within 6 months was revived. It was amazing. It was like providing oxygen to the club. It was very interesting because it was actually built from grassroots up.
Now it's about time to get down to the field. Let's go and visit the Civil Service Cricket Club.
My name is Tony Connell. I'm the chairman of Civil Service Cricket Club. We're having an indoor training session.
How old is the club?
The club has just celebrated its 150th anniversary.
I'm sure that the club has changed a lot in the last 150 years, but looking at the training session, we see a huge diversity here. Was that deliberate policy to make it this diverse, or it's something that just happened naturally?
Back in the early 1990s, the club had struggled with two teams, and we were finding it hard to get guys to play. And then there was an influx of people from India, Pakistan, South Africa. At the time, the Irish economy was booming. So some of them would have naturally played cricket in their own countries. And we were delighted that some of these guys came along, because, in effect, it helped boost the club and kept the numbers up.
How has been the reaction of the players, the club, the supporters to new faces, new colours, new culture?
It's been accepted very, very well, because they understand that without people coming into the club would die. So we're really open to all members who want to play. We don't discriminate against anybody. The club is theirs, and we try and make everybody as welcome as we possibly can. We're actually known within Leinster cricket as being a very friendly club, open up to people of all nationalities whose one love, like the rest of us, is playing cricket.
I think I'll spend a little time planning crimes like Harry.
And what about those playing cricket. Let's hear the views of Andy, trainer for the club, and David, John Irishman.
My name is MD Hawk. I'm from Bangladesh. I'm the coach of Civil Service Cricket Club. Cricket is most important part of Bangladesh. Okay, all the people love cricket, but here the Irish people also loving cricket. Like when I come here 2008, I wasn't see that kind of people was playing cricket. Now the number of people is growing. That's a good future for cricket of Ireland.
The best thing that they bring to the club is the fact that they have played from such a young age and come into the club already at a pretty good standard. So right away, when they come in, they can be added to any team and they'll score runs on any team and bowl well. And they might have 6, 8, 10 years more experience than a lot of us would have coming into the club. So right away, they're an asset.
Like a lost child. An old woman is screaming. The crowd's becoming hostile.
And now it's time to look at the social aspect. A Vox Pop will give us an overview of that side of the sport of cricket in Ireland.
It takes a long time. It's not like a football match is an hour and a half to 2 hours and you could play 3 or 4 of them in a day on one pitch. With cricket, you might play a kids' match in the morning and then an adult match in the afternoon, but that's literally about it. And there is a very social side to it, and people get on very well together from all clubs.
When the game is over, there's always a social in the bar afterwards, and you drink with the opposition, have a drink or two with the opposition, and everybody is in there, and there's no problem. There's a very enjoyable mix.
Cricket can take about 6 or 7 hours to play. You get to know people, you get to know them a little bit better, and you build up good relationships.
Obviously there's differences. Maybe the Irish lads might go out, drink more and things like that, but then again you'll have like the guys from maybe Pakistan will have halal barbecues and maybe Bangladeshi days, so they bring what they do well socially to the club, which is great because we wouldn't have that otherwise. So maybe where previously the social aspect of the club extended no further than the bar, nowadays we can make whole day events that have food and games and are appropriate for the whole age range of the club. So that's an asset, and that's a great thing to have.
It's really family game, we sit together after the game in the bar, buy and drink each other, and it's really, really good to socialise after the cricket. Family go with me all the time. My daughters go to watch my games, every game we go, wherever I go. They come, like my friends, if they are playing there, my family we go to watch them. Their family come to watch us, It's really good socialise, and we're happy,
That last voice was Nasser, a former international cricket player for Ireland. And now we are going to listen to Nadine, another cricket player that introduced us to another aspect of that social scene, as it couldn't be any other way. Not always everything was plain sailing for them. They have to make their way into the teams.
There's a few families in the Hills Cricket Club, in our club, like is involved, is the Clinton family, Archers, and the Dwyers. I remember early days when I was playing for the Hills, you couldn't get a game in the first team, right? Doesn't matter how well you're doing, you couldn't get a game. So one day we were sitting there and a club, few executives were sitting and all that. So I turned around and said, some of you have to adopt me, And so why? I said, I have to be Dwyer, Archer or Clinton to get picked, is it? Oh no, it went long way. It went actually long way. It's still every now and again somebody will remind it and that joke will still come out, I played for them, I think I played from nearly 87 onward for the first team, and I played up to probably nearly, even last year I played an odd game. Now I play Division 2 with the second team. Still enjoy the cricket.
It's time for drinks.
Time to go back to Michael and Mary Sharp. Will give us a more holistic view of the new arrivals to the Irish cricket scene and their need to fully integrate in all the structures of the sport.
They'll be very much just part of the club and they integrate very well, and hopefully they'll be on committees and do some administrative work as well as playing. That's what you need as well. You need them to take part in all aspects of the game.
I can certainly think of one club that was in difficulties 20 years ago and has largely revitalised through immigrant people coming and joining the club and playing. But also there have been problems where people came into the club, played, but were not that interested in getting involved in the administrative side or anything of the club, and the club suffered as a result. So both things happened. But I think the clubs are healthy enough, but certainly it has helped in most cases to develop new players, and now you're beginning to see the second generation of people who came in the 80s and 90s beginning to play.
And what about the future of Irish cricket? We will leave that to Nadine and Nasser.
When you beat Test Nation, all of a sudden, you're from zero, you've gone right up there. It makes a tremendous difference. You're known to the world then that there is a side out there called Ireland who beat Pakistan, and England especially. When we beat England, the game was happened with Pakistan was only a low scoring game, but against England they chased 328 runs. Huge. Everyday people. You know what I mean? The one just turn on the TV and they saw Ireland playing cricket on TV. I mean, this year now, it was a game held in Malahide. That was the day, 10,000 people at a game of cricket. That's huge. Obviously, the interest is out there.
Nobody can stop Ireland as a destination.
With that positive note from Nasser, we will fly to Italy for the second part of the program.
Francesco Moscatelli, Italian journalist. Last year I wrote this book, Italian Cricket Club, with two friends, Giacomo Fasola and Ilario Lombardo. English sailors who stopped in Genoa between London and the Red Sea, and during their stops they started to play cricket. The first cricket team in Italy was Genoa football and cricket team. It was founded by a sailor at that time. They played cricket in Italy for about 5 or 10 years, no more. Then cricket in Italy reborn in the 50s of the past century in Rome. They built up a first federation in the 60s, but was completely different from now because it was an experience that was limited to few people from England and just 2 or 3 Italian, not something popular. But this experience was the first real experience of cricket in Italy. Things started to change in the 90s because immigrants from Sri Lanka, India and Pakistan arrived in Italy and started to join this old team and also to build up their own teams. And in 1994, the Italian Federation joined the World Cricket Federation, and we could start to speak of an Italian Cricket League.
That was Francesco, that gave us an overview of the history of cricket in Italy. Now it is time to listen to the voice of the governing body of the Italian cricket.
Luca Bruno Malaspina, the Chief Executive Officer or Segretario Generale of Federazione Cricket Italiana. The level of cricket in Italy is growing up every year, and they reflect directly on the national team, because the national team is now, at the moment, is number 19 in the world in T20 and is number 26 in the world in 50 overs. But one thing is important, in my opinion, about the national team. The national team is the example of the integration of people. We have players coming from South Africa, living in South Africa, coming from South Africa with an Italian passport. They are playing for the Italian national team. They play together with Italians, we can say Italians, born in Italy with Italian culture, and at the same time with maybe Sri Lankan, coming from Sri Lanka by residence and the ICC rules. So it's an interesting mix of people playing together, and is something that we like to show. And I have to say that in the federation rules, we are considering Italians, every player born in Italy, even if by law we cannot do that.
Genoa, as mentioned by Francesco, was the first club, so it was the obvious choice for a visit.
I'm James Reynolds. I helped set up Genoa Cricket, the actual cricket club, in 2007. The idea was because historically in Genoa, the actual football team, which plays in Premiership in the Serie A, still has on its shirt Genoa Football and Cricket. It was set up by James Spenceley in 1893. Unfortunately, a lot of people don't know what cricket actually is.
Line and length. From one coach to another, let's hear from Mark Ivory how all this revival came about.
By accident, basically. I teach English as a foreign language to kiddies, and every year during the last term we always had a few weeks spare, so I used to say, right, next week let's go and play cricket instead of English grammar tests. And then the local football club, I had no idea at the time, is called Genoa Cricket and Football Club, and by accident somebody saw me and asked what sport it was. When I said the word cricket, everything started from that moment. And we set up this little exhibition match using the children from the schools I was working in. Should have finished there and then. And then it grew and grew and grew. And I read in the local paper the next day that because of this event, we were now in the National Federation Serie C. And I was the coach. And couldn't say no because it was a nice project. Or even if all the players are much better than me, they call me the coach just because it looks cool to have an Englishman as coach. But I basically make the tea.
Delivery is how far down the pitch towards the batsman. The ball bounces.
And what about the players? Let's get a flavour of the diversity of the club.
My name is Pashupati Alsain. Pashupati is an Indian name, and Alsain is Swedish surname from my father. I was born in India. I lived in India for 18 years. My mother is Italian, my father is Swedish. It's a complex situation, which brings me to know cricket very well because I lived in India and that's the sport which is most popular. Been here in Genoa 5 years now. When I was 18, came back, well, so to say. I came to Italy and now I'm doing university here, and as soon as I came here I just contacted the club because cricket is part of my life. So I wanted to join a sports team and I said cricket is the best thing I can do, and that's how I came to know them.
My name is Enrico. I'm Italian, coming from Genoa, and I play cricket for Genoa Cricket for 2008. And I'm a designer. I started knowing cricket because a friend of mine used to make some documentary films from the cricket side. And he told me, why can't you design something for the cricket team? So I designed something and it got on the training session. And that's it. I see, I know this game because I played for 4 years and a half at baseball when I was young. So, I saw these guys and it's the same sport, so I decided to start and play with those guys.
My name is Nirang Nayanajit. I'm from Sri Lanka. I'm 12 years in Italy. I played 7 years with Genoa Cricket. I found a lot of people is nice heart for Indian and Pakistan, Sri Lankan and Bangladesh, English, Italian. We have a nice support.
And to finish this Italian side of the program, we will listen to a short box pop where some of the Italian contributors will give us a flavour of how they see cricket.
Cricket can help all the immigrants from Asian countries where cricket is played a lot because thanks to this club, the local people do have more respect for them. And it helps the players. If they say that they're part of our club, it helps them to find a job. It means that they're a serious person. They're generally a polite and educated, friendly person. That's the sort of person who gets into the world of cricket generally. Obviously, there are exceptions. But the average person who's interested in cricket is generally a nice person and not interested only in winning, but more in other aspects of the sport, of the friendship part of the game. And for example, our players have come to my school and given courses of cricket to our students for free. We never charge any youngster who wants to come and play our sport. So it's a way of them giving back something. It can help a lot in terms of integration and in giving a player of a sport more pride in what he does, even if he's living in a foreign country where that sport is not so famous.
It's the heart of the club. We are a community. We are an amateur club. Nobody's been paid. The idea is to get together to try and socialise. We all eat together. We enjoy the curry. We spend our Sunday afternoons, maybe these boys have been working 6 days a week, and then, when they come Sunday, it's a sort of day out for them. And, their family and friends are on the sidelines, they're singing, hitting the drums. You see them smiling, and that for me, that's all I need to see. If I see these young lads smiling and happy, you can see cricket is in their blood. So socialising is a very, very important aspect. These guys, some of them that arrive in Italy, they have a chance to not feel isolated, to join a community.
The game, it takes a long time, but then we remain after the game even for longer and have a drink together. So it really helps, the social life grows and we become a family.
At the beginning it was really weird because I was the only one white with all these black guys from all over the world. But after a few years I can say that I never imagined that I can find people like this, friends like this, because they are really close friends now. From the social aspect, I'm really, really happy to say that cricket make people come together and enjoy and play.
Allora, I can't speak in English.
First thing that I would like to say is that we learned a very important thing. We have people from different nationalities in this team. Tamil, Singhalese, Indian, Pakistani, Bangladeshi, English, Italian and Australian. We play together without any problem. We are a united group before and after the matches. We help each other. I don't care if it is Tamil, Singhalese or Indian. We are a group. We are unified. We help each other. We have really good relations between us. That's an energy source for me. I like this. We do not let anyone be unemployed. That's something that I like because we did not come here to play cricket, but first of all to work. After I found this club, I personally grew up a lot. That's very important. We help each other.
Insieme per l'altri. Questa è una cosa mi dà un buon carico perché mi piace.
Cricket is much more than a sport, and that's why we are pushing, especially in the school where we have a project, we have to teach the culture of cricket, because cricket is not only a sport, it's a culture. You need to understand something like fair play, that obviously every sport has a fair play rules, but cricket is in the preamble of the laws. It means that something important that players decide about the fair play. So we can say quite easy that cricket is a very important factor of inclusion of the people and integration.
We could have not asked for a more appropriate way of finishing this program. I hope that you have enjoyed and maybe learned something about cricket, about integration in Ireland and in Italy. Thanks to all those who contributed to the program. This program was produced by Murat Sinar and myself, Iñaki Irigoyen. Hold on there, the program wouldn't be complete without this question. Sadly, when we talk about sport, we are talking about the male section of the clubs. Then how is the female section in terms of health and in terms of integration?
Well, women's cricket's been going on for a long time in Ireland. It went like men's cricket through ups and downs, but it was revived in the mid-70s and has been thriving since. We have some very good players and we have a new club this year in Greystones, but we don't have very many immigrant players. With places open to them, they're circulated every year and asked would they like to put in a team, so hopefully, but they haven't formed one yet. We're hopeful that they will. Some of the newer clubs out of the west of the city will form women's teams and partake fully in the leagues.